When we went to the break, I said we're going to bring in the ghost of Marshall McLuhan to ask, is there something about the way that you watch television, about the way that things come through the television, ranging from the limited number of words? As someone has pointed out, if you took the whole 6 o'clock newscast and put it on a newspaper, it wouldn't fill the front page. Is there just no time to tell you anything? Do the waves shut your brain off? Is TV especially bad?
I'm going to give you a straight answer and then I'll have some fun with it. The straight answer is yes. Television is fundamentally different. When you're reading, your eye movements are different. The biomechanics of that process are different. When you're holding a newspaper, when you're reading a book, when you're watching television, you are in a different stance, a mental frame of mind. McLuhan also said that you are the screen. The dots on the television screen are projected on you. Now, having said that, I really like Marshall McLuhan, but he was very playful. He often used hot and cold interchangeably. He often contradicted himself in his own books, and I would really like to read some of his peer-reviewed academic articles before we talk about him again. I think there is something fundamentally different about television, and let me give you an anecdote about why I think that's true. I decided to find out more about the American Civil War one time. That was the topic I wanted to understand, didn't know much about it. I happened to listen to a series of academic lectures on audio tape from a Virginia Military Institute professor who knew military history. The number of donkeys that were owned in the North versus the South, the number of miles of railway, in enormous detail, and then military tactics on the battlefield. Then I said, great, I really like this topic. I'm going to go get the Ken Burns documentary on the Civil War, and I watched it, and I said, oh, now having been in television my whole life, having written and read the 6 o'clock news, I watched this and I said, oh, right, there's no content. I forgot. It was emotional, it was beautiful panning of still pictures, it was plaintive strains of a violin playing music. I felt viscerally involved in the Civil War, but there was no content. It was only emotion. So that's the difference in my view.
And it is odd, I mean, because McLuhan with his hot and cold, I agree that McLuhan can be a little hard to follow, but certainly if you had a camera on someone reading the newspaper or even listening to radio news, and then you had a camera on someone watching TV news, what would you get, you know? Animation on the one hand, zombie on the other. And this is worrisome.
But let me just say, though, as someone who occasionally teaches, I'm sure you'd agree with me, when you teach, you choose to use a bit of video because it shows very expensive things cheaply, shows dangerous things safely, shows remote things brought into the classroom. You can stop the action. You can show it over and over again. So, I mean, video or visuals of any description, whether it's broadcast television or whether it's on YouTube or something, they have an enormous place in our education and in our human experience. But the problem is that television is so magnetic. You know, people predicted that the world was going to hell in a handbasket when newspapers were invented because they were going to distract people from the serious task of reading books. And if you go look at old newspapers, many of them have trivia in them. They said the same thing about radio, about television game shows, and we've been saying this for 150 years. The problem with television is it's so magnetic, quite unlike a book or quite unlike a magazine, newspaper, and so on. It is on in the home, it is pervasive, people can't talk to each other when it's on. How many times have we all done this to our loved ones? Shh, you know, the TV's on. And what's on the TV? Nothing. It's compelling.